Hello and welcome to our review for the Roto Grip Hyped Solid, which releases with the RSTX3 and Hustle USA on August 19th. This one will feature James on both the League and Sport pattern with a comparison to the Hyped Pearl on both patterns. We're here once again across the parking lot from the world-famous Muncher's Bakery at Royal Crest Lanes in Lawrence, Kansas, and the house pattern is up first as I pop the graph up and try not to think about eclairs now. The house pattern here is similar to Kegel's Easy Street, but higher volume, so it's a little tougher than your average house shot, but not difficult by any means. We're also bowling on brand new pins. Switching to the tech specs, the Hype Core comes in at a 252 RG and an 036 differential and 15 pounds. On paper, it feels uncomfortably close to the Hustle Core at 253 and 030, especially considering that the Hustles and Hypes both use the VTC cover formula, but it's amazing what a little extra differential will do. More separation of the oil rings on the ball equals more traction on every rotation, and James has a few rotations to work with. The cover's VTC Solid at 3000 grit, same cover from the Hustle Camo, but right away I think we're all seeing Electrify Solid both in optics and ball reaction. It is very close, a lot closer than I expected it to be, but it's also a large part IQ Tour Solid. We'll have that comparison in another video. Realistically, it's right in between them. It doesn't roll quite as early as the IQ TS, though it certainly shapes like it, but it doesn't labor down lane like the E-Solid could do at times. I think the E-Solid even rolled heavier than the IQ TS if it didn't quite rev up as quickly, and both of those can get lazy down lane. With the Hype Solid being a little higher RG than both to get it down the lane a little easier, and with the small boost in differential over both helping it out down lane, that makes the Hype Solid a legitimate contender for the throne of sport control balls. The IQ Tour Solid will always hold the mental edge for people because of its reputation, but you're seeing what I'm seeing, and the Hype Solid is $35 cheaper, just saying. The ball motion's very round and continuous, but there's not really a point where you can say it's starting to rev up. It hits the lane and just rolls and rolls and rolls. James noted that it felt like a baby Axiom, the same kind of rolly round climbing motion where it just rolls and continues to continue. It's very even rolling, meaning it doesn't seem to lope and then take off or get halfway down the lane and then spin up quickly. It just has a calm, consistent roll. This could be a house shot ball for a lot of people. I think it's a little too smooth and slow for the high speed, low rev crowd, but if you're that, you're not looking at anything this far down anyway. If you're like James, though, the Hype Solid on a league shot gets you more excited than the thought of eclairs at Muncher's after a long filming session. Before we get into the comparisons, I tried to avoid this as much as possible because I hate seeing it in videos myself, but liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment are the easiest ways to support the channel and keep the videos coming. The YouTube algorithms love that stuff, so do a couple clickies and let me know in the comments section what else you'd like to see the Hype Solid compared to in future videos. If you like James' jersey, this is the green triangles design, and my code Rosdahl10 gets you 10% off everything on the CoolWick website at checkout. The code's in the description to copy and paste. If you're in the market for any new equipment, like the Hype Solid for example, I have a direct link in the description to purchase it at Bowler's Mart. Using the link, associate your purchases with me, which helps my sponsors justify their support, and I do also earn a 5% commission from sales using the link. The SRGBBFS group on Facebook is a great place to go for all things SPI. They specialize in used, rare, and international equipment. Thanks to Turbo and extra thanks to Storm for their support and sponsoring of the channel. Also, the new Super Thanks button below the video on the line with the like and share buttons allows you to leave me a tip, other than that eclairs pair well with cream puffs and cream cheese filled pastries. Moving to the Hyped Pearl, they definitely share more in common from a ball roll perspective than either share with the Hyped Hybrid, and we'll also have that comparison coming in a future video. The Hyped Pearl, however, is definitely a lot cleaner, a couple boards weaker, and sharper on friction. It does have that same continuous, consistent, even roll to it though. They both roll off friction rather than taking off or jumping or jerking. Naturally, the Hype Solid with a bit of surface blends the lane a little bit more, but once transition shows up and something cleaner is needed, James can go straight down to this one and have the same general look. He did note that this one is one of the ones that came at 1500 polish, and that there is a bit bigger gap between the box Hype Solid and box shiny Hyped Pearl than he'd like. So if you have a 4K fast Hyped Pearl and the box Hype Solid, they would likely pair better or wouldn't be quite so far apart. The Hyped Pearl is the last ball in the bag for James pretty much, and if he's using it for League, something has gone horribly wrong, but it does come into play quite a bit in longer format tournaments, both on house and sport patterns. However, if you're someone that starts off with it in League, or it's just one ball down from what you start with, the Hype Solid is absolutely an option for you. The HP2 line continues to remind everyone that you just can't get better ball reaction for the price. Now we're going to flip to the sport pattern. Taking a look at the graph, it's our standard 2019 Open Championships doubles and singles pattern. 42 feet, 28.4 mils, so on the long side of medium and pretty heavy volume. At just over a 2-to-1 ratio, it's very flat and very difficult. The Hyped Solid would be a legitimate consideration to start with for James. He would definitely want a little more surface on it to start, 2000 most likely, but saying that, it still looks really good. Note that he's also a couple arrows further right than he was on the house shot. It's more sensitive to misses out, or if he gives it too much room to the right, it doesn't want to come back. That would be where the surface would come in to get a little bit more dig, but he does have plenty of blend still, and moving inside helps with that. On patterns like this that are such a low ratio or flatter, if you play too far to the right, small misses don't recover, and if you get it in a little, it hooks pretty well instantly. More surface for blend helps, or moving in and increasing the angle helps, because if the ball is going right, it's going to resist changing direction more, so you can get extra push or extra length just by moving in a little. He still has to be careful not to let it out too far, but this puts him in business. Now at the same time, this is a video. If you were bowling on this pattern in a tournament for score, you'd want to be further right with more surface to start, because what happens if you get too deep too quick is that you push oil from the middle further to the right, which makes the pattern even flatter and even harder. For the purposes of the review here, just assume that we played the lanes correctly prior to this, and we have some transition friction to the right that we're moving in from. This does prove a point about cover formulas though. VTC is a lower to medium strength cover, and you can see how much the extra oil is affecting it. It's hooking quite a bit less on the sport pattern, where something like an infinite physics or a reality check is only really affected when it comes to miss room due to the shot being more challenging. Balling down to the Hyped Pearl, it's even more sensitive to the extra oil, but again, it's still shiny, and there's not quite enough transition for it to be really viable yet. The point of this is the comparison of ball to ball though, what kind of differences there are, how they're different, and what you're really looking at. It's your job to figure out when and where to use them, but knowing how they compare and complement each other is the whole point of a review. Depending on your lanes, your conditions, and your game, you might find a ball to give you more miss room one way or the other, or hook more or less for you than it does for us, but general reaction shape and how it compares to other balls is generally pretty true and accurate. Once again, the lanes aren't quite ready for the Hyped Pearl, but it still looks good. He has to slow roll it a little more than he'd like to make it work, but it, like the Solid, just rolls, so that makes it easier than a lot of other balls to work with. The ball itself isn't trying to rev up super fast or really boom on friction or do anything extra itself, so it allows him to make finer adjustments to get it to do what he wants it to do rather than working with what it wants to do. The trade-off again is that sometimes it's a little too agreeable, a little too smooth and weak sometimes. The trick is figuring out how to match the ball to what the condition is giving you. If the conditions are giving you slow and weak ball reaction, use a stronger and more dynamic ball. If the conditions are giving you too much ball reaction, use something cleaner and smoother. I think you can see that both of these balls would be great choices on this pattern at some point, just need a little bit more friction. Once again, the Hyped Solid releases on August 19th, and I think it's a big deal. I think this is one of the best balls in the entire SPI catalog right now. Time will tell, of course. Catch me in the report card in a couple months, but I don't expect to have a different opinion. I think I'm going to put holes in one of these myself. Hashtag #StafferHype. A big thanks to my Patreon members and great Discord community. Thank you for watching, and may the strikes be with you.